Welcome everyone. In this video we want to outline some of the things we're doing to welcoming you back, all of you back in September. Most things will be the same, but some things will be different. And what we want to do to parents and you today is just to outline some of those, have a quick walkthrough. What we would say is that all of this will be shared in much more detail in written communications, and also with our students. When they return, we'll be spending lots of time in those first few days running through these protocols and making sure that everyone's comfortable with those new systems in place. So if I start outside on Kirkhead Road, we've been working with the local authority to help support us with transport and with people, traffic management for parents and carers who would be dropping students off. So a big change there. The authority is suggesting a one-way system around. So from whichever direction coming to school, moving onto Long Lane and Stubbing Lane and coming around and onto Kirkhead Road and following in this direction down towards Worrell would be the direction that we would ask you to drive. We are not going to be allowing parents into school for drop-off, with the exception of those pre-arranged with disabled access, etc. They will of course still be allowed to come into school, but what we'd ask everyone else, both at dropping off times and at pick-up, is to drop off here on Kirkhead Road. Now with the authority we are looking to get a temporary traffic order in place so that this will become limited parking, 10-minute drop-off zone at those two key times during the day. So we will not be having staff or anyone else parked out here, and that will be in place, we are told, within that first week. There will also be potentially barriers extending the pavement so that we can, when we're entering and exiting, it will just support social distancing and make it a bit secure. So there is talk that we will have water barriers. The proposal is at this part of the road. From 8 o'clock in the morning we will have staff on duty here who will welcome our students who've been dropped off and support them in crossing these two lanes where only minimal traffic now, including buses, will be entering and leaving the school car park. Barriers will remain here. Again, students will be supervising crossing both of these areas. So that they end up here, which is our pedestrian entrance. So we're still using the same pedestrian entrance. If we're coming from the Worrell direction by foot or by bike, nothing changes. And for everyone else, drop off up there, walk down to this entrance, and everyone will be entering pedestrian entrance through these gates. In reverse at the end of the day, all those who are going home, who will be identified using wristbands, which we will be providing in those first few days, will exit in the same way. They will come past here. No one will be here at that point on buses. We'll come to that later. And they will come and exit that, and again we'll have staff supervising, and we'll ask all pickups to be done in the way that they would have been done perhaps in the car park, all pickups to be done up onto Kirkhead. So in the morning, for those arriving from there, they'll be welcomed by members of staff here, and for those on buses, likewise. As soon as students are on site at that point, from 8 o'clock, they will be asked to move into zones based on their year group bubbles. So we'll talk through those zones shortly and explain, but as soon as they're here, it will be a case of off buses, removal of masks at that point for the majority of students, all wearing masks, and all of that guidance has been shared by ourselves and by SYPTE, so that will send again. Remove and put masks into bags so that they can then be kept and washed if they're reusable, and likewise another mask to wear on the bus home. So once they arrive, staff will direct them into their bubbles. For one year group it will be straight down here, but we'll go through those separately now.
So for Year 7 students, whether they've come on foot or whether they've been dropped off by car or by bus, they'll arrive in this area as we've shown, walk across the front of the sports centre and then down these steps here, through this gate, down the steps, and that brings them round to this yard area here where they will be supervised until the bell goes for tutorial in the morning. So Year 8 students, as they arrive, will be directed down the drive here and onto the tennis courts by the PD block, and they'll wait here until they are directed to go in by the member of staff that is supervising. Year 9 students walking across the front of the sports centre, across the top of the banking, and come down these steps by the side of the main building of the school and along to the tennis courts at the far end of the site. Again, they'll be supervised there and directed into school at the appropriate time by the member of staff supervisor. Year 10 students will walk along from the drop-off area across the top here and go into the school hall through the fire doors here, where again they will be supervised until tutor time. Year 11 students, again same area for drop-off, across the front of the sports centre all the way round front entrance, along this path here and up the steps here and into the dining room. There will be no food available to buy in the dining room in the morning, but Year 11s, as one of the older year groups in school, with the Year 10s being trusted to be responsible and to be inside first thing in the morning. Again, they will be supervised in that. So 8:25, a warning bell will ring to prompt students to move to registration. The Year 7s will be in this yard area, as you saw before. Will walk along this path, supervised by a member of staff, and they will come through these doors, and you can see there are hand sanitising stations. Year 7s will come through, sanitising hands, and will turn right down the N-1 corridor, and all Year 7 students will be registered on this corridor. After the Year 7 students have cleared this area and entered the building, the Year 8s, who will be on the tennis courts beyond the sports centre, will follow the same route into school. Again, they will sanitise hands at stations as they come in. We do suggest that if students want to bring their own hand sanitizer, that would be useful. As the Year 8 students come in, then they come up these stairs and into reception, and then turn along the N0 corridor, which is where Year 8 students will register. Year 9 students at the start of the day will be on these tennis courts. When that warning bell goes at 8:25, come off the courts, round the back of the lower ground floor and in through the doors here, where again hand sanitizer, and the Year 9s will come in and up the stairs all the way to the top to the N1 corridor, where Year 9 will register. The Year 10s will have already been inside as they arrive at school. They'll be in the hall and they'll have hand sanitised on entry. When that warning bell goes at 8:25, they'll come out of the hall and walk through reception, and Year 10s will be registering either on C0 in the technology classrooms, or they'll go up those stairs and along to C1 to the maths classroom. 10, Year 11 will already be inside at the start of the day in the dining room. They'll have hand sanitised as they come in. As that warning bell rings, they come out of the dining room and along to either S1, science classrooms on this floor, or up the stairs to S2, where Year 11 will go to register. The thing to note with all of the year groups is that the paths don't cross once they're on the school site. So we're starting those year group bubbles as soon as they come onto the site.
So at 8:50, registration will finish and students will start to move to their first lesson, period 1. Now, we don't have a one-way system in place because of the nature of the building, so students will take the most direct route and go straight to that lesson that they have period 1. Still following the protocols that we've already had in place about sticking on the left and all those kind of things. Now, questions have been raised about the use of masks in school. So, although we're not mandating the use of masks in line with Public Health England, we are allowing students to wear masks where they think appropriate, and likewise staff. One of those times might be on corridors, and that information and that might change, that guidance in the next few weeks. But for most students, they will not be required to wear masks or staff. They will just go direct to their next lesson. Now, we will minimise the use of bells during the day so that there are less people instantly onto corridors at one time. We will have students passing in different year groups, and that transitory passing is fine as long as we maintain that and they head straight directly to their next lesson, sanitise hands wherever possible, and get straight into that next classroom. So when we come to the classroom, teachers will welcome you straight in and off the corridor as soon as possible. Here you can see marked out the teacher zone. So when entering and exiting, you'll obviously cross this, but at other times, students will remain in their seats, using a seating plan has always been the case, so straight in, straight to your seat. Hand sanitizer and wipes will be available for students to clean hands and to wipe down desks where necessary, but for the remainder of the time, students will stay in their seats. Teachers will spend the majority of the time in this zone. They may circulate to check on students, but this will be the majority of their time will be in the teacher zone, and students only coming into this zone, as I say, on entry and exit. Students will be allowed to go to the toilet during lessons, and we'll use the same system of recording that so that you can keep an eye on that as parents as well as us on how often that's taking place. But that will also minimise those points toilets so that they can be cleaned during the day, throughout the day, and minimise touch points, etc. in those areas. When it comes to sharing equipment in the classroom, we will try to minimise any use of shared equipment by providing students with some equipment, and where they are sharing equipment, putting in cleaning regimes to make sure that that stuff has been cleaned before it's used by anyone else. So during period 2, there will be a 10-minute built-in break. Students will have that break along with their teacher, but remain in that classroom. There will not be the opportunity for them to have food or drink at that point, but the teacher will give them a break, allow them to talk to one another and have that rest time before picking up that lesson. We will not have students out and about during that time, and those breaks will be staggered according to departments and teachers. They will choose the best point at which to take that 10-minute break. Whilst we're here, water fountains will remain closed off, and we are encouraging students to bring as much water as they will need for the day. We will, under certain circumstances, be able to refill those, but rarely, and we would ask you to please bring as much water as you would need during the day, because we are not able to operate our water fountains. Toilets will remain open throughout the day, and students can use the toilet closest to where they are at that point. And as I've said before, they'll be routinely cleaned during the day, and we'll try to minimise the use of those at one particular time by allowing students to go during lesson time.
So from 11 AM we have period 3, and period 3 will take place over the course of 2 hours, and that 2 hours will include an 80-minute lesson for all students and a 40-minute lunch, and those lunches will be staggered, so different year groups are on lunch at different times, and the teachers will take their lunch with the year group that they're teaching. Year 9 and year 11 will have their lunch first, and then we'll go to the lesson. Year 7 will have their lesson first, and then we'll go to lunch afterwards, and year 8 and year 10 will have a split lesson with the lunch in between. In each of those split lunches, the younger year group will eat first, the older year group will go outside, and then the 2 year groups will swap halfway through that 40 minutes. So 20 minutes for eating and 20 minutes of break. The younger year group that is on the first lunch sitting to eat will come directly to the reception. Those that have got a packed lunch, sandwiches, will go into the hall, and those that are having a cooked school meal will come out through the main doors, and we'll join a queuing system here at the front of the school. There will be barriers in place here which will direct students into this undercover area here. Hopefully you can see there are arrows on the floor. Students will queue in, as at office hours, round and back, and from there, all supervised by members of staff. They will go up these steps here and into the dining room. Once that first sitting of students has finished in the dining room, that 20 minutes is up, they will come from the dining room and walk down the stairs here and into reception. Students that have been in the hall and that first sitting having their sandwiches will also come out into reception once that 20 minutes is finished, and all of those students, all from the same year, will exit through these doors out into the quad area here. They'll walk down some steps and across to the tennis courts, where they will then have their 20 minutes of time on their lunch break outside. Again, that will be supervised. The older year group that were on the same lunch sitting will have gone straight out to those tennis courts at the start of their lunch break, and the year groups will then swap over after that 20 minutes, the younger ones going outside and the older ones coming. When it's time for the old students to go in to eat, they'll off the tennis courts here, all supervised, along the path here at the back of the school, and at the end there are the steps up which will take them back to the front of school, where they will either go into the hall through the fire door or join the queue for the dining room as the younger students did in the previous.
So at the end of the school day, students will return to those year group zones. So for instance, year 7s will go to the amphitheatre area near to the reception area in school, with the exception of those who are making their own way home, either walking, bikes, or being picked up by cars. If they are being picked up again, it will not be in the car park, it will be on Kirkhead Road, and they will leave using the pedestrian exit and entrance, where staff will supervise them crossing that entrance and exit point from school. When students move to their year group, they will be supervised in that area, and we will be loading students onto buses by year group as and when the buses arrive. So a central person will be organising that, asking for year 7 to join a particular bus. Students will then be asked to sit in the zoned areas, which we understand will be identified, the same as they will have done on their way in. They'll be asked to put on face coverings at that point, move onto the buses and leave in that way. That's it really. I think would finish by saying we are really, really excited, and like everyone, just desperate for all of our students to be back in school. This video in no way is for them to, or you as parents, to remember all of this. It will all be run through in those first few days. But what we thought would be useful is to give you an outline, to give you some of the ideas and planning that's gone ahead, to make sure that we welcome them in a safe way when they return to us in September. Further information will follow, particularly about any changes to the traffic order for Kirkhead Road, and as guidance perhaps evolves regarding face coverings in particular, we will keep updating you with that. But please keep asking your questions and we'll respond to those as soon as we can. And again, as I say, we look forward to welcoming your children back in September. So thank you for watching.